Hello, Joy Olson, BlockBuster Fundraising, 2020. Wow. Well, today we're going to talk about nonprofit trends that we can expect in 2020. Here we are. The new year is here, but you know what that means? It means new opportunities. New opportunities are right around the corner, and you know why they are? It's because we have more innovation. Things just like last year that just started, Instagram added donation stickers, and there was an increase in online donations and digital wallets like Apple Pay and PayPal made it easier for people to contribute through their mobile devices. So now that we're in this new decade, we can look back and see all the changes the past decade brought. Hey, 10 years ago, it would have seemed crazy to suggest that social media would play such a large role for nonprofits. But as a nonprofit nowadays, you cannot afford to overlook those platforms. So let's take a look at what's in store for the upcoming year and see what trends your nonprofit should be on the lookout for. Number one, the experts say, an increase in monthly giving. As the millennial and centennial generations have started contributing to the nonprofit sector, there's been a rise in mobile donations. And since mobile devices are now also being used for social media and banking purposes, hey, a donation can easily be placed at any time with just a tap of a finger. So this will lead to an increase in a monthly revenue stream as people can easily opt in to monthly contribution programs in no time at all. Trend number two to look forward to in 2020, the rise of artificial intelligence. There's little to no doubt that artificial intelligence will play a huge role in how nonprofits use technology moving forward. Nonprofits need to approach technology with an open mind and learn to embrace it for their own benefit. Given how quickly technology has grown in the past year alone, 2020 holds promise to a new rise in artificial intelligence that nonprofits can harness. Artificial intelligence has led to an easier workday with more balance and simplified tasks. Getting ahead on some of these technological breakthroughs will allow nonprofits to do more with less people while increasing your effectiveness. Next trend we're going to see in 2020, the experts say, is broader diversity. The demographics of nonprofits are definitely changing, and so are the minds behind who's running them. This tends to lead more voices being heard and more inclusion. The nonprofit sector will greatly benefit by opening up to new communities whose voices have been previously overlooked and underrepresented. So along with that will come people with different perspectives and backgrounds that can certainly help nonprofits be more effective in their communities. Next trend for 2020 in nonprofits, a boost in online and mobile fundraising. In 2019, online fundraising grew 12.1%, while other forms of donations only grew by 4.1%. Now that was according to Double the Donation. With Facebook and Instagram adding donation buttons and stickers, it's obvious that obtaining donations online is becoming much easier. Nonprofits can no longer ignore social media or other online platforms for finding funding. Lending your voice to some of these platforms can ultimately grow your presence, not just within your own community, but across the globe. Next trend in 2020 that nonprofits will see is flexibility in the workplace. While it used to be that telecommuting was a privilege, it is now regarded as a benefit. With apps coming out that are designed for project management and communication, there's no reason for nonprofits to not consider transitioning into telecommuting. The upsides include being more cost-effective, having more to allocate towards accomplishing your goals, and less travel time. Shifting the workplace into the home can save your organization time and money that can be used towards your mission instead of high overhead costs. And another trend, while there's no certainty about the future, we can look to the impact that 2019 had and assume that it will trend in the same direction. The way technology progressively enhances our day-to-day lives will enhance our work lives too. Now, another group of experts came up with their nonprofit trends for 2020 and what they expect in fundraising and management. And they asked the question, what does 2020 look like for your nonprofit? Well, it can seem that there are many unknowns that affect volunteer habits and philanthropic trends. However, they say your organization can better prepare for tomorrow by, number one, understanding the sentiment of today's donors and volunteers, and number two, considering important predictors that tend to affect giving. Now, this group of experts has scoured a variety of resources to bring you nonprofit trends from corporate philanthropy to nonprofit management. Let's now take a look at the current state of giving that can help shape your 2020 fundraising strategies. Okay, strategy number one, have a new strategy for building donor loyalty. Today's consumers are more likely to purchase a product if they receive personalized communication, and nonprofit fundraising trends are following suit. So it's more important than ever to build better relationships with your donors. In 2020, fundraising should feel less transactional and more personal, but personalized fundraising is about more than just using a name on an email. Get to know your donors, large or small, and make an appropriate donor recommendation. Demonstrate that your organization shares their values. Provide opportunities for your existing volunteers and donors to contribute their ideas and feedback. Donors who engage with your cause on a deeper level are so much more likely to become loyal supporters. Now, nonprofits are also finding increased success with membership programs that offer tangible benefits. So if you're thinking about re-upping your membership program or maybe just initiating one, you'll want to take note here. The benefits may include swag like t-shirts, hats, water bottles, VIP admission to an event, or any other perk that the donor receives in exchange for their annual donation. Hey, the statistics from back in 2018, these types of memberships accounted for 77% of total online revenue for those nonprofits who offered them. Memberships are not only an opportunity to boost revenue, they also offer the long-term benefit of bolstering donor loyalty. That's huge. All right, here's another trend. A different but direct way to ask. Charitable organizations have often used their past successes to appeal to donors, asking for donations to help continue its efforts. However, this model may prove much less effective going into 2020. Today's donors want to know that their contributions are making a difference. Younger givers are especially motivated by a sense of social responsibility. They want to be a part of the change-making process. To engage the next generation of donors, you may need to change the way you ask for funds. So consider this ask idea. There's a problem occurring right now. You're needed to solve the problem. Here's how your gift or your time will solve the problem. Now, this model, the experts say, tends to engage the proactive donor by identifying a current need and shifting the focus from the past to the present. I think it's a great idea, great trend, great thought. All right, next trend. Monthly giving is on the rise. Subscription services are flourishing, and that's no surprise because smaller monthly payments that automatically renew tend to be more manageable and convenient for consumers, for your donors, while companies and nonprofits enjoy the increased customer and donor retention. The concept has influenced philanthropy trends a lot. Monthly givers tend to donate more over time than their counterparts who donate once a year. In fact, the annual value of regular givers is worth nearly 3 times more than that of one-time donors. So you really want to think of ways that you can promote monthly giving. Maybe we'll come back to that next week and give you some ideas on how to promote monthly giving on our live. If you like that idea, let us know in the comments. Okay, next trend. Online fundraising in 2020 is going to be a major source of revenue. Digital philanthropy is widely favorable among donors and the nonprofits they support. Last year, nonprofits reported a 77% increase in online revenue since 2014. Email accounts for 13% of online giving, but successful email fundraising can require a bit of strategy. So we're going to come back to that sometime this month with a resource, some ideas to help a nonprofit like yours to optimize fundraising emails, because that's going to be very important in this new 2020. Hey, despite Facebook's rocky year in 2019 in the public eye, nonprofits saw a steep increase in revenue from a peer-to-peer fundraising tool called Facebook Fundraisers in 2018. Studies have yet to be completed for 2019, but experts are predicting further growth into 2020. On average, nonprofits raised $1.77 through Facebook for every $100 of total online revenue. That's just Facebook. So the uptick in direct donation platforms like Facebook Fundraisers suggests that it's worth diversifying online fundraising efforts. In fact, many nonprofits rely on social media to help supplement fundraising efforts, and the experts don't see that changing in 2020, and either do I. I think it's an important supplement to your fundraising efforts. The experts say a quick tip here: bear in mind that your photo posts are the highest viewed. So pair your Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook donation requests with an image, and you're going to get a lot more action on your call to action. Okay, well, while technology is the biggest driver of change for 2020, according to this expert's report, you may not want to discount the power of person-to-person interactions. The same report reveals that a significant portion of consumers actually want to disconnect from their devices. This social interaction is why volunteers are happier and healthier. Your nonprofit may consider appropriate ways to provide donors with an authentic and engaging giving experience. Trend for 2020. Here's another one, and this is in face of disasters. How can you do smarter fundraising in the face of some of the big disasters that we're facing? Experts are predicting a surge in environmental activism over the next 10 years as communities demand action. And as natural disasters become increasingly devastating, disaster prevention and recovery are relying more on the goodwill of individual citizens. Many disaster funds receive outpourings of charitable donations from individuals and corporations immediately after a disaster event. However, funding can just as quickly subside even when significant need remains. So if your nonprofit gets involved in disaster mitigation and relief, the Center for Disaster Preparedness suggests shift your focus from short-term reactionary giving towards a more sustainable strategic giving plan to have the most impact. And they say, here are some ways to prepare for disaster smarter. Plan ahead. Have a program in place ready to collect donations or lend services for planning recovery and immediate relief efforts. Think holistically. How can your organization, your volunteers, and their skill sets make a difference? Hey, be strategic and sustainable. Waiting for a disaster to strike before we act is unsustainable. A changing climate calls for creative thinking and preparation. Support innovative prevention, mitigation, and adaptability programs. Research has shown that disaster relief giving can heighten pro-social behavior such as charitable giving and volunteering in the long term. So make certain that your nonprofit has a program in place to receive donation and supplies when disaster strikes. And consider partnering your community's disaster mitigation efforts. Okay, 2020 calls for another trend, and the experts are calling it preparing for the, quote, election effect, quote. You know it. 2020 is election year. 2016 saw an outpouring of donations and volunteers participating in civil rights, social action, and advocacy programs. In the aftermath of the 2016 election, many nonprofits experienced an increase in recurring donation and volunteer participants. In fact, donors who signed up for a recurring donation around the election were 50% more likely to donate again within 18 months. Social sector nonprofits can capitalize on the election effect by offering recurring donations and boosting fundraising efforts around election time. Hey, there's also shifting trends in corporate philanthropy. Jamie Dimon, who's Business Roundtable chairman, announced that employers are investing in their workers and communities because they know it's the only way to be successful over the long term. These modernized principles reflect the business community's unwavering commitment to continue to push for an economy that serves all Americans. So nonprofits are expected to benefit from the changing attitude of consumers and these forward-thinking CEOs. So it's especially important that organizations are looking to adopt best practices when it comes to leveraging corporate philanthropy in 2020. And in 2020, corporate giving, the experts say, is on the rise. So the shift in corporate philanthropy trend is good news for nonprofits and charities across the country. With changing sentiment from employers and consumers, corporate giving and volunteerism are definitely on the rise. Giving by corporations was up 3.2% in 2019, and it's expected to rise another 2.6% in 2020. And furthermore, the Philanthropy Outlook predicts giving by corporations to exceed the historical 10-year annualized average rates of growth. So while there are many factors that affect giving tendencies, experts suggest that corporate philanthropy in 2020 will be impacted most by 1, the growth in the gross domestic product, and 2, growth in corporate savings. All right, another trend they suggest, maintain a clear mission. With an impending presidential election on the horizon, history dictates that a record number of nonprofits are competing for the public's attention and resources. You know that's true. The nonprofit sector, more than ever before, will need to stay mission-focused and clear about their priorities. They will really need to be the safe port in the storm. So 2020 is the natural time for nonprofit organizations to review their missions, their goals, and your procedures in light of the current fundraising and volunteer engagement strategies. And also, they say in 2020, transparency is key. By definition, nonprofits are required to be the agents of transparency in order to maintain your 501c3 status. But transparency is becoming increasingly important to your community supporters. Tracking and reporting on data such as volunteer impact and return on investment are extremely, extremely important. So many experts are weighing in here on 2020. Okay, let's finish up the trends, and I want to read to you Ken Burnett's. I love his blog, and he's a fundraiser and he's a writer and has an important blog. And Bernard Ross recently asked Ken Burnett's view on this theme of what's going to be trending differently in 2020. And so he asked him this question to Ken Burnett. He said, how will donors be different in 2020? And how will they be the same? So he said, well, Ken Burnett says, well, it depends. It depends principally on whether fundraisers will get clever and start building more substantial, more meaningful relationships with their donors, offering them more tangible benefits and practical engagement, or whether instead they will continue the same old current paradigm of thinly veiled hard sales tactics, ineptly and only partly screened by a so-called relationship fundraising approach. This, of course, results in the shallow, superficial relationships that most fundraising organizations have with their donors today. Now remember, this is Ken Burnett answering this question. He says, as I'm an idealist, I'll opt for what I predict might happen if a few far-sighted fundraisers wise up. He says, let me start with some assumptions. Technology is rapidly changing fundraising communication, and this will continue for the next 11 years at least. We might learn to distinguish between useful change and distracting change, but he says, I doubt it. As a result of some of these changes, though, donors have gained and will gain increasing control of our means of communicating with them, despite a proliferation of channels. Donors are unlikely to become more trusting and docile. Rather, they will increasingly seek accountability and transparency, as well as control of where their money goes and value for that money. So Ken Burnett says, generally donors' motivations for giving, complex though these are, he says, they're not going to change much. Some fundraisers, though, will get better at understanding these motivations and at responding creatively to them. Some fundraisers will get better at calculating and estimating lifetime values, so it will realize the benefits of not focusing constantly on quick hits and the short term. Smart fundraisers will recruit only trained communications professionals and will invest in building the communication skills of their staff. Smart fundraisers will realize that successful communication is not about what they want to say or how they say it, but rather about what donors are prepared to hear and how cleverly fundraisers can present that. With luck, the curse of assumptions that will be driven from our halls. Wise fundraisers will listen better and will judge their responses better. Wise and smart fundraisers, needless to say, will be in the minority, Ken Burnett says, but will be much more successful. Ken says the emphasis will be on the donor experience. Experience fundraising, he says, as I once called it. Real, useful, regular feedback will be one part of the key to this. Consistent, informative, welcome, and produced to a very high standard. This feedback will be combined with a creative and carefully constructed, even tailor-made thank you policy that constantly reminds donors of what a great thing that they are doing. Ken says, my fundraising strategy for the future, if I had to write one, would be built around thanking donors effectively. Take note of that. He says the whole thing, of course, will be built upon more imaginative, more creative, and better use of data. Fundraisers will wake up to the fact that they are selling neither their organizations nor their cause, nor their missions, and certainly not all the nuts and bolts and insignificant minutiae of what they do. Rather, they are promoting joy, the warm glow, the exhilaration, the sense of achievement and fulfillment, even the meaning of life. As business and political life are so discredited now, the timing for all this could not be better than right now. And Ken Burnett says charities will also realize that to do this effectively, they have to be very good indeed, and they will need to employ fundraising professionals who are very good indeed too. Last but not least, the question was asked to him, will fundraisers ever be able to offer their donor meaningful and valuable relationships? So some suggestions that he has for you to do, not just starting tomorrow, but until the end of time or until you retire, whichever comes first. Number one, learn to really see what you do as if through your donor's eyes. Cultivate and teach this obvious but rare talent in all your donor-facing colleagues. Practice this together until you really mean and walk the relationship talk. Number two, make sure you and your people are the most learned fundraising team in the land. Don't just collect all the best books and attend the best seminars. Use them, challenge them, revisit and refresh them constantly. Three, he says, get real. Study how Pareto's brilliant principle, the 80-20 rule, affects your organization. Then focus your attention and scarce resources on where you can make the most difference. Number four, develop strategies for building the trust of your donors. Practice transparency, accountability, and consistency, and promote these openly. Always keep your promises and show that you have and that you do. 5, become a master of technology, particularly all the new channels of communication, but impress on everyone that technology is a means to an end, not the end itself. 6, with this technology, learn to be a really effective communicator. Become brilliant at the art of storytelling. Take no prisoners. If it isn't really good, don't send it. 7, write frequently to each of your donors about their very most favorite subject, themselves. Learn to package and present passion, anger, and thrill so that they combine to inspire and engage. 8, think long and deep about the feedback that you could provide to show tangibility what donations to your organization achieve. Plan your feedback to be personal, engaging, positive, varied, and regular. Number 9, install a thank you and welcome program that at least as good as the best of all the others you've studied from around the world. Make your new welcome program just exemplary. Number 10, meet with and really listen to your donors at regular intervals. 11, ask vigorously, unashamedly, and often, but always taking account of the relative comfort of your donors. If you are to ask your donors for the right things at the right time in the right way, you will need to know your donors very well and to prepare really thoroughly. Intuition and empathy will also help you a lot. 12, make it easy as possible for donors to recommend and introduce your cause to their family and friends, not by promoting your organization, but by circulating and sharing their experience and sense of fulfillment. So Ken Burnett Thank you. I think he's a wonderful mentor, and those are some absolutely super ideas for us to take our fundraising in 2020 above and beyond. This is Joy Olson, BlockBuster Fundraising and JoyOlsonGroup.com, saying thanks for having been here. We're wishing you a fabulous 2020. Catch us on Instagram, Facebook Live every Tuesday at 1 p.m., YouTube channel, IGTV on Instagram. We're there, and we're only here to help and inspire you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.